Instagram does not make things easy, let me tell you.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
So, there might be people out there wondering, why would I be broadcasting, or should I say rebroadcasting, this celebration? It features Trump, it features Mount Rushmore, Founding Fathers. I didn't create it. But it doesn't mean that I can't sit back and look at it with, oh, look at that mountain. It took so much. It's a monument to behold, in my opinion, regardless of what you think. You're gonna hold people in the past responsible for the moral codes that we set today. The same reason that guy got elected is the reason why I'm okay with
To close out tonight's show, the United States Air Force Academy
Even
Band
knowing
playing
how
Battle Hymn
angry
of the
you are
Republic.
at Trump and the idea of America. Great history to look back on. Now, does that include the dark parts of American
My eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage
I don't know what happened to the fireworks.
of
I
wrath
forgot about the time difference, so I went to go eat dinner and came back, and they were in the middle of the fireworks.
He hath
So I fired up
loosed his faithful
broadcast
lightning
as quickly as I could.
of his terrible swift soul.
But yeah, I'm off on another long live stream. I think that this is a format moving forward. Long conversation. I don't think I'm the most entertaining person to listen to, so I totally respect if you have to bow out and go elsewhere. It's all good. I'm not even worried about it. But I am working on it. There's certain things that you can do, like change the angle of the camera, for example, like that. And I haven't figured out how to, or not even figured out, but I haven't properly set up this scene yet. So, go back here. This is the content screen with me in the corner. And then I got a me screen with the content in the corner. And then the third person view. I actually got to go back through these things and reformat them. But let's see what's going on here.
In the beauty of the lilies, Christ was born across the sea. Oh, with the glory in his bosom that transfigures you and me. As he died to make men holy, let us live to make men free. While guarding is marching on, glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truthing is marching on. His truthing is marching on.
It looks weird watching somebody perform music in a uniform. I don't know why. You tell me why.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you
Why
for
does that look
attending
weird to
tonight's
me?
event. Please remain seated for the
I
departure of
think
the
we're all
official
used to
party.
seeing performers. I think we're all used to seeing performers dressed up as a character or something. All right, so we're gonna get out of this. Hush, hush, hush. Okay, so what we're gonna look up right now is virtue ethics. So let's go down a rabbit hole real quick.
Imagine a person who always knows what to say, who can diffuse a tense situation, deliver tough news gracefully, is confident without being arrogant, brave but not reckless, generous but never extravagant. This is the type of person that everybody wants to be around and to be like, someone who seems to have mastered the art of being a person. This may sound like an impossible feat, but Aristotle believed that while rare, these people do exist, and they are what we should all aspire to be.
Virtuous. The type of person, a virtuous person, the person that we should all aspire to be, right? The interesting thing about virtue ethics, and one thing that Aristotle acknowledged about applying virtue ethics, which is, by the way, virtue ethics is when we focus on the character of the person performing the action. So let's type in virtue ethics here and actually pull up a proper definition so everybody can see. Um, can we? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Virtue ethics is currently one of the three major approaches in normative ethics. It may initially be identified as the one that emphasizes the virtues or the moral character, in contrast to the approach that emphasizes duties or rules, which is deontology, or or the approach that emphasizes the consequences of the actions, which is consequentialism. Suppose it's obvious that someone in need should be helped. A utilitarian would point to the fact that consequences of doing so will maximize well-being. And so this is what people who want everybody to wear a mask would argue. So they're basically arguing consequentialism, utilitarianism, right? So the consequences of doing the action or making the public policy will maximize well-being. Okay, a deontologist to that fact, in doing so, a utilitarian will point to the fact that the consequences of doing so will maximize well-being. A deontologist to the fact that in doing so, the agent will be acting in accordance with the moral rule, such as do unto others as you would be done by. A virtue ethicist to the fact that helping the person would be charitable or benevolent. So the way it splits up, and I was talking about this in the last video, is that virtue ethics focuses on the person or the character of the person performing the action. Deontology ethics focuses on the duties or the rules, basically the action or the policy itself. And consequentialism focuses on the consequences of the action. So our whole United States fundamental theory is based on individual sovereignty, right? And one of these conversations that I had with Dan on Facebook recently was in regards to Locke and Lockean ethics. So Locke was primary inspiration for Thomas Jefferson, who's the main founder of the United States Constitution, right? Declaration of Independence and all that. And so Dan's argument was that Locke is more interested in basically the collective than he is in the individual. So it was an interesting thing. It was an interesting conversation that Dan and I had, and I'm happy that we had that conversation. I think that more people should have conversations like that. But let's take a look at what Lockean theory is, right? It's a science, Locke says, of using the powers that we have as human beings in order to act in such a way that we obtain things that are good and useful for us. As he says, ethics is the seeking out those rules and measures of humane actions which lead to happiness and means to practice them. Okay, so there are several elements in the landscape of Locke's ethics. Happiness, or the highest good, as the end of the human action. The rules that govern human action, the powers that command human action, and the ways and the means by which the rules are practiced. While Locke lays out this conception of ethics in the essay, not all aspects of his definition are explored in detail in that text. The essay is that they're referring to actually is something that I just ordered. I just got. I don't have time to read it just yet, but but it's an interesting thing to dive into. Is a bunch of really fundamental theories. So let's see. The thread of moral discussion that weaves most consistently throughout the essay is the subject of happiness. True happiness, on Locke's account, is associated with the good, which in turn is associated with pleasure. Pleasure, in turn, is taken by Locke to be the sole motive for human action. This means that the moral theory that is most directly endorsed in the essay is hedonism. Okay. Interesting. Hedonism. Haven't covered that yet in class. Let's look it up. let's see. Okay, hedonism. Here you go. The pursuit of pleasure of sensual self-indulgence. Self-indulgence. Okay, we'll go back to Locke here. This means that the moral theory that is most directly endorsed in the essay is hedonism. And hedonism is the pursuit of pleasure of sensual self-indulgence. Okay, on Locke's view, ideas come to us by two means, sensation and reflection. This view is the cornerstone of empiricism. According to this theory, there is no such thing as innate ideas or ideas that are inborn in the human mind. All ideas come to us by experience. Locke describes sensation as the great source of all of our ideas and as wholly dependent on that contact between our sensory organs and the external world. I'll tell you, it looks a lot like Locke is very focused on the individual, not so much on the collective. Under happiness, Locke is very clear we all constantly desire happiness. All of our actions, on his view, are oriented towards securing happiness. Uneasiness, Locke's technical term for being in a state of pain and desirous of some absent good, is the motive that moves us to act in the way that is expected to relieve the pain of desires and secure the state of happiness. Okay, so how does this relate to mask wearing? Remember that Locke was inspirational to our founding fathers, and so we take a look at the Lockean theories, and it looks like he's praising hedonism, which is self-indulgence, which is the pursuit of happiness and self-indulgence. So it doesn't look like, I understand how somebody could make the argument that the motive to relieve the pain of desire and secure the state of happiness in the context of a virus, securing the state of happiness is securing the state of health for everybody, right? But this is the problem with virtue ethics, and I wonder if they cover it on this website. Where are we at? Virtue ethics here. The issue with virtue ethics is that you end up wiping out the individual. So I guess there's a few different forms of virtue ethics, so let's read through them real quick. While all forms of virtue ethics agree that virtue is central and practical wisdom required, they differ in how they combine these and other concepts to illuminate what we should do in particular contexts and how we should live our lives as a whole. In what follows, we sketch 4 distinct forms taken by contemporary virtue ethics, namely, eudaimonis. How do we say this word? Don't know how to say this word, but Google does. Here we go. Wait, we want to spell it? Can you spell it? Or how about we ask them to define it? Oh, there is no... Let's see. Pronunciation.
Eudaimonism.
Say that again.
Eudaimonism.
Say it again.
Eudaimonism. Eudaimonism.
Eudaimonism. It sounds like there's more syllables in there
You-
when he says it.
Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus now bundled together. The greatest stories and characters, the large.
See, my channel should look like that.
Eudaimonism.
Eudaimonism. Oh, that's an easy word. Eudaimonism. Okay, so back to eudaimonism. Eudaimonist virtue ethics, agent-based and exemplarist virtue ethics, target-centered virtue ethics, and platonistic virtue ethics. Let's take a look. The concept of eudaimonia, a key term in the ancient Greek moral philosophy, is standardly translated of happiness or flourishing, and occasionally as well-being. Each translation has its disadvantages. The trouble with flourishing is that animals and even plants can flourish, but eudaimonia. I hate this word. Can we just agree that I hate this word? The trouble with happiness is that in ordinary conversation, it connotes something subjectively determined. It is for me, not for you, to pronounce on whether I am happy. So that's exactly the thing that I was trying to imply was the issue with virtue ethics. If we try to boil everything down to our greatest virtues and try to act on those, everybody's going to have different virtues, right? So let's see, agent-based. Rather than deriving of normativity of virtue from the value of eudaimonia, agent-based virtue ethicists argue that other forms of normativity, including the value of eudaimonia, are traced back to and ultimately explained in terms of the motivational and dispositional qualities of agents. What does that mean? Explained in terms of motivational and dispositional qualities of agents. It's unclear how many other forms of normativity must be explained in terms of the qualities of agents in order for a theory to count as agent-based. The two best known agent-based theories, Michael Sloat and Linda Zagzebski. I'm not making fun of your name, Linda. I'm having a hard time saying it. I'm laughing at myself. Trace a wide range of normative qualities back to the qualities of agents. For example, Sloat defines rightness and wrongness in terms of agents' motivations. Agent-based virtue ethics understands rightness in terms of good motivations and wrongness in terms of having a bad or insufficiently good motives. Okay, so how does this relate to mask wearing? So agent-based virtue ethics understands rightness in goods in terms of good motivations and wrongness in terms of having a bad motivation. So if I don't want to wear my mask, the issue with a health crisis is that people can speak from both sides of this argument, right? There are people out there that would argue that my motivations for not wearing a mask are bad motivations, right? And whereas I would argue that my motivations for not wearing a mask are good. It's actually I am of good heart when I'm doing that because I'm trying to preserve individual boundaries from the government. Okay, just as anybody would in their fight against, Second Amendment laws, or fight against the right to abortion. Okay, and those topics are hot button topics, and those ones can be discussed also. But there's both sides of the aisle in any argument, and each argument can be just as strong as the other. So back to ethics and virtue ethics, I just want to remind everybody that virtue ethics is a type of ethics where you focus on the person, the character, the moral character of the person performing the action. So let's see here. Other forms of virtue ethics. Target-centered virtue ethics. The touchstone for eudaimonists virtue ethicists. I can't even say that word. Let's see. Hang on. Sorry, guys. I need to know how to pronounce this one too, because I'm not good at the English language. Can it speak it for me? Yes.
Ethicist.
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 Okay. All right. I think I got it. Ethicist. So, touchdown for eudaimonious virtue ethicist is a flourishing human life. For agent-based virtue ethicist, it's an exemplary agent's motivations, the target-centered view developed by Christine Swanton. By contrast, begins with our existing conceptions of the virtues. We already have a passable idea of which traits are virtues and what they involve. Of course, this untutored understanding can be clarified and improved. It is one of the tasks of the virtue ethicist to help us do precisely that. Rather than stripping back things to something as basic as the motivations, we want to imitate or building it up to something as elaborate as an entire flourishing life. The target-centered view begins where most ethics students find themselves, namely with the idea that generosity, courage, self-discipline, compassion, and the like get a tick of approval. It then examines what these traits involve. Okay, so that's what we'll focus in on here. Most ethics students, the target-centered view begins where most ethics students find themselves, namely with the idea that generosity, courage, self-discipline, compassion, and the like get a tick of approval. Target-centered virtue ethics. A complete account of virtue will map out its field, its mode of responsiveness, its basis of moral acknowledgement, and its target. Interesting. Very difficult to take this one into mask wearing because of all of these different these filters that you have to put it through. A virtue on a target-centered account is a disposition to respond to or acknowledge items within its field or fields in an excellent or good enough way. A virtuous act is an act that hits the target of a virtue, which is to say that it succeeds in responding to items in its field in the specified way. We have to move beyond the analysis of a single virtue and the actions that follow from it. This is because single action context may involve a number of different overlapping fields. Interesting. Well, so this target-centered virtue ethics would definitely go against not wearing your mask. For sure. Ooh, I hear fireworks outside. Happy 4th. Happy freedom. Happy freedom. Go to a different camera angle. So how do we say this word? Platonistic? Let's see. I know the root word. Let's see here.
Platonism.
Platonism. A Platonist. All right, that's what that is. So a Platonistic virtue ethics. The fourth form of virtue ethic might adopt takes its inspiration from Plato. The Socrates of Plato's dialogue devotes a great deal of time to asking his fellow Athenians to explain the nature of virtues. Here we switch back. This one. to explain the nature of virtues like justice, courage, piety, and wisdom. So it's clear that Plato counts as a virtue theorist. But it's a matter of some debate whether he should be read as a virtue ethicist. What is not open to debate is whether Plato had an important influence on the contemporary revival of interest in virtue ethics. A number of those who have contributed to the revival have done so as Plato's scholars. However, often have ended up championing the eudaemonist version of virtue ethics, rather than a version that would warrant a separate classification. Nevertheless, there are two variants that call for distinct treatment. All right, so based on how Timothy Chappell, or Chappell, defines Platonistic virtue ethics, good agency in the truest and fullest sense presupposes the contemplation of the form of the good. In the moral, same guy, in the moral life, the enemy is the fat, relentless ego. Constantly attending to our needs, our desires, our passions, and our thoughts skews our perspective on what the world is actually like and blinds us to the goods around us. Contemplating the goodness of something we encounter, which is to say, carefully attending to it for its own sake in order to understand it, breaks this natural tendency by drawing our attention away from ourselves. Contemplating such goodness without regularity makes room for new habits of thought that focus more readily and more honestly on things other than the self. It alters the quality of our consciousness. And anything which alters consciousness in the direction of unselfishness, objectivity, and realism is to be connected with virtue. So, in the context of mask wearing, when it comes to Platonistic virtue ethics, Platonistic virtue ethics would agree with not wearing a mask, whereas target-centered virtue ethics would not. So there's a few objections, and I've already kind of gone through them, but let's go through what this paper has to say. Oh, hey, we got a viewer. Hi, Instagram. Here, we'll switch camera angles so you can see where Instagram is. We'll go bam. Instagram is on that. Right there on that screen. So we can flip the camera. But like you can barely see me because the thing is in the way. So there's that. That's the only way to do it. It's the closest thing I got to a desktop. And I could get away from doing it on my phone. So anyway, what we're looking at is we're looking at ethics. Different philosophies, which is the things that basically our country, our whole society is based on. We're talking Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, a lot of different philosophers. So virtue ethics, there's a few different ways to look at it, but to boil it down, virtue ethics is when you basically focus on the character, you focus on the character or the person that's performing the action. So let's go into deontology.
What is blockchain? Blockchain is the technology that powers cryptocurrencies, to put it simply.
The first thing you need to know about Kant's moral philosophy is that he's not trying to convince you that morality exists. If you're one of those people who goes, oh, morality is just an illusion and it doesn't really exist, well then you're probably still going to think that when you're done reading Kant. What he is doing is saying, come on lads, We all know that people behave in a way that they call moral, at least some of the time. Morality, it's a thing, we do it, and we talk about it. So what's the best way to try and understand it? He starts by asking, what does it mean to be good?
So, what he's going to go into with deontology is deontology focuses on the action or the policy specifically. And that's where most of my argument comes from when it comes to not wearing a mask. Because it's not about, when you measure an action or a policy, you have to measure, you have to say whether you can apply this policy. You have to first act consistently and see if you can apply this policy across the board consistently. And if you can't, then you can't make the policy because it's not moral. The second thing, which I'm sure that they'll go into here about deontology, is that you have to treat others with respect. And with respect, what Immanuel Kant means is we have to respect the dignity in each other to make the decision that's right for ourselves. So, so the people who argue for masks are arguing for virtues, although there's a number of different virtues that you can look at within virtue ethics. And the people like me who are arguing against mask wearing are arguing the deontology side of things, where it's a measurement of whether it can be a consistent thing applied across the board, and whether the policy actually respects the dignity in me to make the decision that's right for myself. So anyway, one thing that I wanted to show people before we keep going down philosophy is I wanted to show you what VeChain is. If you've never heard of VeChain, VeChain is one of the only altcoins. They call them altcoins. They're different than Bitcoin, but still based on blockchain technology. VeChain is one of the only altcoins that's actually partnered with somebody in real life. So let's see, VeChain partnerships. Hang on just a second. I'm sure I could probably just jump over to Twitter probably and just type in. Here you go. Give us a list. Now let's go to Twitter. Fuck this. The Chinese wing in Walmart, the Walmart in China basically is partnered with VeChain already. So let's do it. VeChain is now the fifth most used blockchain in the world. So let's see if we can. Yes, we can. Let's take a look there. I often see people critiquing the VeChain token, disregarding its value proposition, but failing to tie together all the pieces of the puzzle by proxy. So the VeChain model comprises two tokens, the VeChain token, and I'm not sure what this is. Let's see what this is. This is the smaller token that's based on the larger one. Let's see. What does this mean? VeChain Thor Energy, huh? Interesting. So it's used to power transactions on VeChain and is equal to the cost of conducting transactions on the blockchain. So VeChain is smart currency, able to freely appreciate at the market's whim. VeChain is used to settle smart contracts, or as a monetary medium that can be used to invest in ICOs. ICOs are initial coin offerings. So anytime another altcoin comes out, just like a company would go public, instead of private, they would go public and list themselves on the stock exchange. They have these things called IPOs, initial profit offerings. I think that's what they're called. I don't know. I don't know. What are they called? IPOs. Is that what they're called? Let's see. Thank goodness we have the internet. Oh, initial public offering, not initial profit offering. Yeah, see, good thing we looked it up. So an ICO essentially, where is it? Right here. So it's a monetary medium that can be used to invest in ICOs. ICOs are initial coin offerings. So if I came out with like a Wesley coin, for example, you could use VeChain as a monetary medium to invest in the Wesley coin, which is an ICO if you wanted to. Don't know why you would. VeChain Thor Energy is a unit consumed when writing data to the blockchain. VeChain Thor Energy is produced by holding VeChain directly in the wallet holding VeChain each block every 10 seconds. So appreciation comes via a variety of mechanisms. So this currency is set to appreciate no matter what, right? Because as usage goes up, they are consuming the energy, which is VeChain Thor Energy, right? And as that's used, appreciation happens. So VeChain Thor must be purchased from holders by businesses to fulfill their blockchain needs. This automatically gives VeChain intrinsic value as it provides vital functionality, something no other token can boast. As demand for VeChain Thor Energy increases, so does VeChain's ROI. ROI stands for return on investment. This is one of the market focuses that helps drive increasing value. As time goes by, activity on the mainnet will increase as partners continue to deploy their solutions at an ever-increasing rate. For example, take the news about China using VeChain for a natural gas facility. Okay, so this just happened 2 years ago. On the day of testing, on the 19th of 2018 in October, the testnet clocked over 1 million transactions without even running all day. On the 7th of November, the testnet clocked over 2 million transactions again, only running for a portion of the day. VeChain's data throughput capacity is gargantuan with all those transactions happening so quickly. That's like a Visa or a MasterCard type of transaction capacity, right? I don't know what the numbers are, but it's maybe similar or close. What this means is that when running at scale, the demand for VeChain Thor Energy is going to be significant. To drive scarcity into the VeChain Thor Energy stockpile, we need to continuously burn more than we can generate each day. In a single day, VeChain was able to almost exceed the value of a total of 1.1 million transactions on mainnet. This is before the majority of major solutions have even been deployed. Needless to say, we will be easily burning far more than we have before in 2020. Consider Bright Foods' traceability platform use case. Product is called Bright Code. Every step of the supply chain will be tracked to provide carbon data and quality assurance to the end user. Bright Foods plans to incorporate VeChain throughout its entire supply chain from seed to final product. Each data point along the way requires VeChain Thor Energy, writing temperature, salinity, right? Salinity? Soil pH data from the greenhouse. VeChain Thor Energy. Logistics data, VeChain Thor Energy. Carbon emissions relating to the transport used, VeChain Thor Energy. So VeChain are working with BYD, which is an electric car manufacturer, and rewarding EV drivers with carbon credits on DNVG's carbon ecosystem. Guess how the drivers upload their data? Using VeChain Thor Energy and VeChain's patented multi-party payment protocol. Enabled the user to never have to own crypto, yet they can still use the blockchain, which is mass adoption 101. So this is the stuff that Bitcoin can't do. We know that Bitcoin is a good idea for a store of value, but it's not great as an exchange, like a currency exchange, because it's not set up for mass adoption. And VeChain seems to be. And so the reason why this is relevant, Wesley, why is this relevant? Because just in the news, I mean, last week, I had done my own video on Bitcoin. That was last week. But just 2 days ago, we've got this now, which is the U.S. moves closer to the digital dollar. So the Senate Banking Committee held a hearing on the future of the digital dollar. The pressures to create a digital dollar are mounting as China recently began testing its own digital currency, which will be included in popular applications like WeChat and Alipay. If you don't know what Alipay is, I've never heard it before, but I assume that it's Alibaba's payment solution. Alibaba is like the Amazon of China. As a matter of fact, a lot of people that sell products on Amazon just sell as a third party, and they set up their websites to purchase on Alibaba and sell on Amazon. That's how cheap the stuff is. So Alipay, I'm sure, is Alibaba's payment system. Of a particular concern is widespread adoption of a digital yuan. How do you say that? Is that racist for me to not know how to pronounce their currency? Yuan? Digital yuan? I don't know. Anyway, in emerging markets and in international trade. So once again, we're talking about mass adoption. This is the concern of people who, like us, that own a dollar. Particular concern is the widespread adoption of a digital Chinese currency in emerging markets and in international trade. The dollar is the reserve currency right now. So if anybody is using another currency to exchange goods and that sort of thing in developing countries or any international trade whatsoever, that's a direct threat to the dollar. So the idea of the dollar-backed digital currency gained mainstream media attention last year during the Libra Congress hearings, where Facebook introduced a new type of digital unit backed by a basket of currencies and commodities. So what Mark Zuckerberg was trying to roll out with was a Libra model that was supposed to be a decentralized currency, a lot like blockchain, Bitcoin and VeChain and such, but based on each country's existing currency. So Libra would have a digital currency for the dollar, and then there'd also be a digital currency for, Japan's digital currency, and there'd be a digital peso, a Libra digital peso, right? So that's what Facebook was trying to come up with. So this is like the gold rush right now towards digital currency. This is what's happening. Everybody's like, oh, this is what the future is. We all got to jump on board. So we're at this like .com era where we were with AOL not too long ago. So that's why it's relevant, because the whole thing is about digital currency right now. And I went down a huge rabbit hole, and I started following a bunch of people on Twitter, and I found VeChain. So where is it at right now, you ask? Well, that's a great question. Where is it at right now? Maybe Binance will tell us. No, we got to sign in. We don't want to sign in. Let's just see VeChain price. Oh, shit. We'll just type in VeChain. Right now, it's 0.0093740. So it's less than a penny. Less than a penny. Do you guys remember when Bitcoin was less than a penny? I'm not saying that you should go out and like throw thousands of dollars at this, but I mean, you spend $100 on stupid shit all the time, why not throw $100 at VeChain? I did. We'll see where it goes. That'll be interesting. So there you go. There's my stream, my 4th of July stream, the day before the 4th. I actually plan on coming back tomorrow. I'm going to start streaming a lot more now that the kind of the infrastructure is set up a lot better. Once again, I'll give you the other point of view here. And show you what this looks like this way. So I've got another microphone right here. Matter of fact, I can take phone calls. All I got to do is give the number out, which I haven't done yet. But I keep offering to have conversations online with people, and nobody really wants to take me up on that offer, which I understand. I mean, I'm off-putting to myself. So, look at this tweet. Let's jump back real quick. Look at this tweet. Let's see if we can blow this up. So, in our forecast with Cointelegraph Consulting, we estimate that more than $300 billion in food items will be traced annually using blockchain within the next 7 years. VeChain toolchain platform is perfectly positioned to save up to $155 billion per year for the food industry when blockchain meets IoT, ensuring food safety in the 2020s. So yeah, I would, if I were you, I would go out there and research VeChain if you're interested in where the future's headed. Let's take a look at what Mount Rushmore Twitter looks like. Oh yeah, look. Look at that. 128,000 killed. Like, oh my god, you people. You're crazy. I mean, it's fantastic. You're allowed to have your opinion. I support you. I really do. Great job hosting Virus Palooza with no masks and no social distancing on the eve of the 4th of July. So usually, I'll say it again for people who didn't hear me the first video. Usually Mount Rushmore has anywhere from 20,000 to 30,000 visitors a day, and they only allowed 7,500 people to buy tickets to this place. So where they get the Virus Palooza thing, I'll never know. It's pretty interesting though. It's just pretty interesting. Twitter is a hot mess. Yeah, there you go. Look at this. Look, update. A hostage situation at Mount Rushmore is now over. Oh. The monuments are in critical but stable condition. Oh my goodness. Oh, look at this video, the Trump traitor video. Yeah. Yeah. I think, okay, so here's the thing, right? People keep talking about this stolen land thing. All these people back in the day were at war. So who writes the history books? The people that win the war. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying I condone it. I mean, certainly I condone it because I'm sitting here and you're sitting there and we're sitting here, right? Like if I didn't condone it, then I would be like, my whole existence, you can just take it away from me. You can have it, have my existence. No, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So, like, I'm happy that they won the war. What do you want me to say? Right? Am I happy the way they went about it? No. Would I wish they would have used a little bit of philosophy? Yes. A little bit of philosophy would have been good. But how do you philosophize with somebody that doesn't speak your language, right? And somebody that's clearly just trying to defend their territory. I get it. I get all the sides. But yeah, they stopped all the wars, didn't they? I mean, the internal ones. But now here we are again, warring over this kind of crap. Well, this is the beauty of America, folks. This is the beauty of America. You're looking at it. Where we can broadcast. And we can broadcast and say anything we want. We can wear shirts that say freedom on it with flags that might make people feel a certain way. Right? Welcome to America. You can't take this shit away from us. It's just the way I feel. Anyway, I'm going to be out of here. I will join you guys tomorrow. I got things to do. Oh, you know what I'm watching? On Hulu, I'm watching A Handmaid's Tale. And if you've not seen it, you need to see it. A Handmaid's Tale. Okay? Go out there and find it. It's a little rough to get through first couple of episodes, I'll be honest, okay? And the reason why it's rough to get through is because there's some... Just go out there and watch it. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. A Handmaid's Tale. All right? I'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you.